Hey y'all, I just wanted to talk a little bit today about working the multi-vendor events on this little training video. So real quick, let's just jump right in if it will show you my PowerPoint. Obviously we are Scout and Cellar, clean crafted wine, and working multi-vendor events is the topic, like I just said. So the goals of the multi-vendor events, we've heard from lots of people that they're not always necessarily huge events for sales of wine, but lots of people are having success with focusing on networking. One thing I do is take cards, and I take these half clean crafted sheets. I'm sorry that that's backwards. But you can fit 2 on a page, and they're colored, so they may be a little bit more expensive, but they're definitely worth it to print a bunch of them. And then you can either staple your cards to those or just turn it right around and write your information there on the back for people to have and look at and take home with them or whatever, so that they will remember you. So I would definitely hand out cards, get your customer list increased. It's good to have kind of a sign-in sheet or a contact sheet for people who are willing to give you their name and email address and or their phone number. And then you can go home and enter all of that information into your cellar, and they will get an email from Scout and Cellar saying, welcome, we're ready for you to set up your customer account. And they can do all that, put in their address, any information that they're willing to put in. But you already have them in the cellar because you met them at that event and you talked with them, gave them your card, got their information, and then you kind of set all that up for them when you got home. So that's a good thing to do. It's also a good thing to focus on trying to schedule tastings, finding people who are willing to host tastings. A good idea is to have a calendar with you. You can even, lay it out and kind of discuss dates with people. Some people may need to go home and check their calendar, obviously, but you can say, I have these dates available, and I'll write them down for you when you get home, and, check your available dates. Let me know what's good. I'll follow up with you this week, and obviously get their information and contact them later on in the week after that. And meeting potential consultants. These are fantastic places to meet potential consultants. I know several people who have met consultants that are now on our team at these kinds of events. It's great because a lot of times we're partnering with people who are already in a social selling business setting. And so they kind of know the ins and outs of this, and a lot of people really see the opportunity and just get really excited about it like we are. So one thing that I did at an event last week was I went into the cellar, into the products, and I went to the business kit and clicked on it, and I just copied and pasted the picture and the description and the price and put it in a Word document, and then I printed that off and took it with me. And I met a lady there who was interested in being a consultant. And so I showed her that, because the inevitable question is always, well, what do I get in the consultant kit and how much is it? So you can just have that right there in front of them. And it's always nice to have something visual. I feel like, at least for me, I like to see something because otherwise I'm not going to remember. So that was, just one thing that I did that I found was helpful. And know a couple of statistics if you want to. I think definitely don't verbal vomit all over them necessarily, but, it is helpful to say, in the 3 months that we've been open, we've grown from 100 consultants to almost 800. That's how fast we're growing and how much people are loving the business and loving our wine. And now is really the time to get in on it. Right here at the beginning. So, and, take this opportunity, whether you're talking to anybody, a potential customer or somebody who's just browsing, or somebody who might want to schedule a tasting or maybe be a consultant or whatever, no matter who you're talking to, take the opportunity to tell your story and just be authentic about it, because they're going to know if you're giving them a canned speech. So definitely be yourself, be authentic, and just engage in a good conversation. The structure, how do we run these things? So it really depends on the number of vendors, and obviously it's whatever you're most comfortable with. I have heard the most success stories from these two scenarios, so this is why I'm telling you about this. With one other vendor, I would usually plan on doing a little bit of a presentation and a more formalized tasting, because most of the time, if you only have one other vendor, you're not going to have, 60 people coming through that you're trying to talk to in a quick second. You're going to probably have, anywhere from, call it 8 to 20 people, with 20 being on the higher side with one other vendor. And so you'll be able to have their attention for a longer period of time. You'll be able to, let them taste and try more wines in kind of in a more organized fashion. So that's kind of, what I would say for that one. I did hear a story of a girl who did one where, as people were coming in, she was co-hosting with somebody from a jewelry company. So they had jewelry set up all around the house to shop and everything. And as guests were coming in, she was handing out, I believe it was the cider or maybe the Mysara sparkling Pinot, something fun and bubbly, to get everybody excited and kind of in a shopping mood. They walked around, looked at things, got a drink of water, and then this consultant did the whites, did a quick presentation on a couple of white wines, let them try it. They shopped the jewelry some more. Then they came back together and did the reds, and then they shopped some more and placed their orders. It was a win-win for everybody. She got to meet people, network. The jewelry person made sales. It was great. So that's kind of one scenario for those. And then if you have multiple other vendors, like a craft or holiday fair type situation, which I just did one a couple weeks ago, I would say plan on pouring smaller. Be conservative with your wine. Samples are good, and it really is more of a sampling at these things and not so much a tasting, because you don't have the time with them to go into detail about the wines and explain all of that kind of stuff. You don't have time to pour each person 5 wines, or you're going to miss 5 other people who are trying to come through, and they're just going to go around and go to somebody else, and they may or may not swing back by. So one thing that I found was helpful at that show was I had these smaller cups. I thought the label was only on the one side, but anyway, you see what I mean. They're smaller cups, not wine glasses. They're disposable. They're plastic, which is really helpful. And I've even seen some people posting pictures on Wild Vines using the way smaller cups that are also disposable. So anything like that, I think, is helpful and useful to have at those events. And then plan on giving your elevator talk as they kind of sip their wine and look at your photos. And we'll talk about that in just a second, what that is. Oh, right now. What the heck is an elevator talk? You may be asking yourself. It literally, I should have reversed these, but it literally is a 30 to 40 second summary of the company and what we're about and the products. Make sure to sell the story of the company before you sell the wine. Lead with your love for Scout and Cellar and why you got into this and why it is such a fabulous company and the problem that we are solving by giving people clean crafted wine. It's amazing, and it really solves the problem of getting rid of those wine headaches that so many people suffer from. It's obviously an issue, or our sales wouldn't be what they are today. So, take some time, think it through what you want to say, write it down, and then time yourself and practice it and repeat it over and over and over again. And I know, one thing that I've found helpful is to start with a question. Have you, as you're pouring their wine, would you like a sample of clean crafted wine? When they say yes, because everybody loves wine, especially if it's free. So you pour whatever they want and then say, have you ever heard of Scout and Cellar? When they say no, then you can make like a little funny about how old we are at 100 whole days or something like that if you want to. And then say, well, something like, we partner with smaller family-owned vineyards from all over the world to bring clean crafted wine straight to your doorstep and help them boost their business by distributing their wines for them. And what clean crafted means is just that the grapes are grown naturally, so no synthetic pesticides are ever used, and they're all tended by hand, and it's bottled consciously, which really just means that there are no additives used ever, nothing that would change the taste, texture, color, smell of the wine the way that the grapes naturally ferment. And there's no added sugars. There can be up to 16 grams in a typical bottle of mass-produced wine. Our winemakers add 0 sugar ever. And very, very low levels of sulfites. It's slow vend to extract more of those antioxidants. And the result is really just a delicious wine that is made the way nature intended and will leave you feeling good the next day. And that, I'm not looking at a clock, so I don't know. That may have been longer than 30 seconds. Mine is still kind of rough, so I need to refine it. But anyway, that's just a little bit of an example. I found that it was helpful to start with a question to kind of start off the conversation, and then also that piece that we already have kind of written for us about the grown naturally and bottled consciously. I know Chris Zielinski posted it on her Facebook page, and Courtney posted it on Wild Vines for us. So you can actually just go through and kind of look up that post and find it and edit it to fit that into your elevator talk if that's something that you're interested in doing. So how much wine should I take? Again, it depends on the number of vendors and the number of guests that you're expecting. If you're doing one with one other vendor, I would say probably take the typical amount of wine that you would take for any normal tasting based on the number of guests. And always, you can always take more bottles for display if you want. They are beautiful and people like to look at them and, feel them and all that good kind of stuff. A lot of times I'm finding that people buy based on how pretty the label is. So anyway, just a fun idea if you want to do that and you're not already doing that. So again, when I did an event with one other vendor, and I've heard from other people that they kind of plan this way as well. I did 5 wines. I did, I think, 2 whites, a sparkling, and 2 reds or something like that. We had 15 guests, and I was able to kind of sit everybody down, do my presentation, pour each wine, and everybody was happy, and it was great. But I had more time, and I had, more attention, obviously. So if it's multiple other vendors, again, I would do 2 to 4 bottles, more for display. Again, obviously more than 4 if it's going to be an all-day event or you're expecting a really large crowd. If you're going to have 60 people, I would do more than 4 bottles. But if you're going to have only 3 vendors, then I would probably only do, 2 bottles, 3 or 4 vendors, maybe 2 bottles. And I think maybe opening only 1 or 2 at a time and giving people a choice. If you're going to open 1, you can just say, would you like a sample of clean crafted wine? I have the Russian River Valley Chardonnay open. It's really delicious if you'd like to try it. If you're opening 2 at a time, you can say, we have a cider here. It's not sweet. It's really great. If you'd like to sample it, or I have this Horse and Plow Draft Horse Red open, or, obviously whatever you actually have open at the time. Then as you empty one, you can open another one. You empty a white, open another white. You empty a red, open another red, and so on and so forth. But I would just pour small, literally like a small taste into one of your disposable cups, and they can take it with them, if they want to, if y'all are done talking and they're still sipping on it or whatever. But that will stretch your wine longer and also not put you in the hole a whole bunch if it happens to be more of a networking event and not so much of a sales event. So what now? Hopefully that was some good information for y'all. I know that you're going to rock whatever events you have set up. I'm so excited to hear about them. I super love hearing and seeing the pictures and the success stories and the ideas and suggestions on Wild Vines. So keep on posting those. If you have questions or suggestions, please let us know. Check the YouTube channel and the video sections of Wild Vines for other trainings. There will be absolutely more forthcoming, and you can watch them in any order that you wish. And make sure your downline knows where to find all of these resources. So that is all that I have. Have a great night. Bye.